likes us. No one likes us. No one likes us. We don't care. We are Millwall.
Hello, and it's a very warm welcome to the first podcast of our brand new show, No One Likes Us Talking. My name's Joe Amphlett, and I am accompanied by my three mates, me old muckers. We're back together again. George, Ted and Graeme, boys. It's a pleasure to see. Can you believe we're doing this?
Hello,
we're back
Joe.
together, the original team.
It's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
At least we've got real lights in here, Joe, not like candlelight when we first
that's
started.
True. Yeah.
Hello, Joe. How nice to hear from me.
Oh, George, it's lovely to see you. Yeah.
Why are you hesitating?
Why have I agreed to do this with you? You made my life a misery when I worked with you. But no, it's good to see you, Ted and Graeme, of course. Anyway, let me tell you a bit about the show, right? We were, of course, and especially you three, more than me, part of a very successful show called Lions Live, which produced shows from the Den. And before the Den, it was South London Radio, which went bust. And as Ted alluded to, we were doing shows in the dark.
It didn't go bust because of us, did it?
No, it didn't. Listen, boys, I was devastated when I heard about the news that Lions Live would be no more in its current format. And when you gave me the call, how could I refuse you, boys? It's a pleasure to speak about the club we love together. So I'm glad we're back together. Coming up on our first podcast, Tony Cascarino, the Millwall striking legend, joins us in the studio for a bit of a chat. Looking forward to speaking to Cass. We'll have plenty to talk about as well, including that spectacular win over Leeds a couple of weeks ago. If you're listening to this 2 years after we beat Leeds 4-3 and we're back in League One, then I apologise. But, that could happen from time to time. And we can... Hello. Who's put their phone on? Who's left their phone?
Sorry.
What did we say before the show?
That
Turn
was
your phone
baby.
off.
I don't know how to do it. It's one of these modern ones, Joe,
for God's
It's got
sake.
Twitter going
I'm
and
working with granddads here. Literally, Ted is granddad. Anyway, listen, boys, George and Graeme and Ted, can you please tell the listeners, our brand new listeners, how they can get in touch with the show in the future? George, you're looking puzzled, but surely that is information you do have.
Right, I'm glad you asked me that,
Oh,
Joe.
good, yeah.
Well, we've got our own Twitter site, No One Likes Us Talking. So they can
What's the
just
handle? What's the Twitter handle,
No
George?
One Likes Us Talking, all capital letters.
Yep.
And if you want to email us, it's NOLU talking@gmail.com.
Beautifully done, George. Beautifully
you.
done. Boys, I think let's start. Let's get into it. And there's only one place to start for me. The homecoming of Timmy Cahill. And it was a very special moment. It was a couple of weeks ago. It was rumoured. And I thought, this ain't going to happen. This is just a pipe dream. For it actually to happen and for him to come out on the pitch in the Derby game as well to say hello to the fans again. It was a special moment, boys, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, and he's a legend at the club. We all know he was brought in 97. Billy Bonds gave him his first game at the end of that season, 97-98 season against Bournemouth. And he's gone on, he's scored some spectacular goals for us. The Sunderland goal will be long in the memory, won't it, Ted?
Oh, yeah, without that.
Forever, yeah.
And now he's come back. The prodigal son has come back home again. So let's see what type of goals he's going to score for us this time.
Oh, he's a living legend, that's the thing. And I think everyone's got such fond memories of Tim, and he always spoke highly of us when he left and he went to Everton. He was always about Millwall, giving him his opportunity and where he started. And he always said one day he'd come home. And, of course, I think it all sat in the back of our memories somewhere. Yeah. And you're quite right, Joe. When we first see the rumour, it sparks something in me. But it all makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, he needs to be fit for the World Cup. That's what his main aim is.
Well,
and
without doubt,
brilliant.
in my mind as well, Ted. I've got my young cousin comes with me to the Den, and he's 21 years old, and he's like, Tim who? Like he can't even remember Tim Cahill.
Well, there's a large section of the crowd who won't know him.
Yeah,
Joe.
And he's looking at his age. And he's saying, 38, he's far too old. He won't. What's the point? And I'm like, you don't know. You've never seen Tim Cahill play. He will be, and I've seen recent goals from him and stuff like that in Australia and America, wherever he's been. He will still be an asset to Millwall Football Club.
Joe, look, us old farts sitting round this table can tell you about lots of people from the way back whens. But like you say, for someone like your cousin and that, who will actually get to see someone that you've seen in his prime, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen very often. But he's such a quality player, Tim. He's always had that sort of ability to arrive in the box unexpectedly and scored a goal that wins a game. He's just got that thing, and he does it for Australia. He scored 2 of their goals in the playoff semi-final, or was it the final, to get them through. He's still got that knack.
The last World Cup, he scored some quality goals, didn't he?
Fantastic. I think he scored the goal of the tournament, if I remember rightly, with a left foot volley.
Against Spain? Was it Spain?
It was someone like that. And look, he's got quality, and you never lose that. That's the thing.
No. Well, let's have a look at it. He's 38. He's come from the A-League, playing for Melbourne City. What's his fitness going to be like? Do you think he'll be able to deal with the cut and thrust of the current day championship, boys?
Yeah, but they're saying that he's going to need a couple of weeks to, get back into the swing of things, get fit. So you're more likely not going to see him start in a full 90 minutes for a little while. But
I think Neil knows Tim, and Tim will see it as a challenge. It's like when I've watched Tim Cahill throughout his career, he's always striving to prove himself, and he's never lost that, if you know what I mean. He's always, which is part of his desire to be a success at football. And I don't see any different here. He may well see it as a stiff challenge that leads him up to the World Cup, but I've got all the confidence in the world that Tim Cahill will be a success again at Millwall in the Championship. I'm sure
he wants to be a striker, he says. Can you play Morrison and Cahill together? That seems to be devastating. I'm worried a little bit about the pace aspect.
That's a combined age of over 70 years old.
But Morrison's a technician. He'll carve out chances. And you've got to think Tim Cahill, he's got a massive heading ability. That'd be a dream team, would it? I don't know.
It's such a it seems like a dream that Tim Cahill's back to me. It's a bizarre thing.
Yeah.
I watched the Royal Rumble the other day, wrestling, Royal Rumble. Now, I like a bit of wrestling. I know that's not going to be very popular with probably our listeners. They might think I'm a bit of a loser. But what happens in the Royal Rumble is they always bring back a fantasy, someone from the past, a legend from the past will come down as a surprise from the ring. And it felt like with Tim Cahill coming back. It's a Royal Rumble. Tim Cahill's back. Can't believe it. Anyway, that was just fun.
Sitting here, I think Big Daddy's come back. Looking at Graham sitting next to me.
Yeah, no,
can I tell you a little story, Joe?
Again.
Can I give you a little
tell me? Is it an interesting story, George?
Because
if it's not interesting, George,
you just cut me off.
You don't tell very.
It won't be the first time, will it?
Okay.
So, in Lions Live, when he came back sorry, listeners. When Cahill came back to play for Australia, was it against Ecuador at the Den some seasons ago? Do you remember?
I remember you was with Sam Brown at that time.
Yeah, and I did an interview with Sam Brown with Cahill, and I'm looking across at him, and it was, there was pictures taken and all that, and we did a nice interview. And Anne said to me afterwards, "You look like you love him, George." And I said, "I do."
I do. Sorry, Anne.
I get that look from you sometimes.
I thought he was going to say.
I just thought
no, George, I think that's the best story I've ever heard.
I thought he was going to say for a minute there, Joe, that it was all down to him that Tim Cahill come back.
Oh, no.
Well, I'm sure it was a big part of Tim's the draw to bring Tim back. Boys, I tell you what a pleasure to get with you guys again, and this time we can be a bit naughtier. We can start bringing champagne and beer into the studio. We weren't allowed to do that at the club, were we? They weren't allowed to do that.
They're a bit boring.
Yeah.
One thing we should tell the listeners, I think, is look, and we thank the club for because when South London Radio went bust, the club came to the rescue and they brought the podcast to the fans, and I think it's fair to say it was very successful for a long time, and so we thank them for that. But now, boys, we can say what we want and not get told off.
Only by George.
Yeah, because we can, not to a certain extent. We're not going to slag off the club. That's not what we're here for. We love the club. We want to be as positive as we can about the club. But when there's an issue, and I remember when I was in the Holloway era.
You liked him, Joe, didn't you? I remember that.
I was a big fan of Holloway.
That's why Holloway didn't come out of the dugout for that last game because of Joe.
Yeah, I was in a box with you that day.
He
George.
was, yes.
Yeah, and he was
the language was terrible, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. You were terrible.
If I remember rightly, Joe, it didn't stop you saying what you felt then when we was at...
It didn't. That's my problem. And that's my problem in life. If I've got a problem about something, I do just speak my mind. And I didn't feel I could do that on Lions Live, but I can do it now. And so... I'm not saying I've got anything to say badly now, but as this podcast progresses and goes on, just know it will be no holds barred. We will tell you what we actually think about stuff, and we will be honest. Because sometimes when you're not honest, you're just lying to your fans, and the club sometimes can do that. But we're not criticising the club. I'm just telling you how this podcast could go. We could be as honest as we want to be. So that's a good thing. Boys, we're going to have a very short interval, like it'll literally be 10 seconds for you, the listener, but for us it'll be about 5 minutes.
Graham's got to have a lay down already.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You've got to go out for a fag.
But this is what's great about this as well. We're not going out live, so we can go for a quick pint, and no one will know that we've gone for an hour.
It might get a bit messy after the interval. That's what you're saying, Joe.
Might we be slurring when we come back?
It's possible. The interval will be 10 seconds, and then we will come back, boys. And if you don't mind, Tony Cascarino is going to join us in this studio.
Oh, yeah.
Would that be all right?
Great.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
Go on. No, you want to finish your point.
No, I was going to say what I wanted to say, but then I thought, no, I can't. But I can.
You can, because I can
Did that
always
make
edit
sense,
it out.
Joe?
What was you going to say? Who was you going to slag off?
I don't know. I forgot now.
Oh, probably for the best. You're listening to the No One Likes Us podcast. Me, Joe Amphlett, George Lampy, Ted Robinson, and of course the beautiful Graeme Smell. We'll be back very shortly. It's a pleasure now to welcome our first... Stop rattling with your papers, George. Ruining it straight away. Let's welcome our first ever guest to the brand new No One Likes Us Talking podcast. It's only the legendary Millwall striker, Tony Cascarino. Cass, thanks so much for joining us, mate. Appreciate it.
Thank you. First ever guest and first ever player to get goals in the top flight for Millwall.
Absolutely, mate. That's why we got you on.
It's something they never forget, Joe.
Cass, before we talk about anything else, I want your reaction to Timmy Cahill coming back to the Den. Was you surprised? Did you think it's a good thing for the club?
Look, I don't know Tim, but I would imagine he's a great pro. Being that Neil would obviously want to have someone with his experience around the younger element of the team. An addition also to a push of keeping Millwall in the Championship. And we always get wary of age. You know, we always look at players at 36, 37. Now, it's great if he's in great condition, which Tim always was, as far as I could see as a player. I played till I was 38, so I'd always be a bit biased. And I think generally for the club, it's a bit of a buzz. And if he comes in and just is a good lad in him, helps a younger element to the team, that's a big effort to making things easier for Neil. There's nothing better for a manager to have a great pro within the club.
What about the fact that you've got Harris and him who have played together? How does that work with Harris? Is that a difficult situation?
Well, obviously, for Neil, he's brought him in for a particular reason. I don't think he's just brought him in to be a player. I think there has to become a player. He'll nurture other people around him, assist. And he always said he wanted to come back and play for Millwall again. You know, with that, I think Neil's given him that opportunity, and I think it's a win-win situation certainly for Tim and the club. And I'm sure that he's not bringing him in for next season. It's just really to get through this season in the Championship, something that Neil would obviously felt he needed.
And Neil would know him inside out, though, Cass. When he'd know him as a player, the enthusiasm that he had, we could all see that from the terracing and that when he was playing for us. Also, as a person, I think that's the main thing about this. It's what Tim Cahill will bring to the squad and the whole team. Like you say, purely to get us through this year for the Championship. Works for Tim Cahill because he wants to play in a World Cup at the end of the season, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I think it's a win-win all round.
Well, I would look at Tim and go, he's a player that's probably overachieved because he's not the most gifted.
No.
You know, and players that get more out of what they've got.
Yeah.
There's not many of them around. And Tim's always had an amazing attitude, fantastic header of the ball, could chip in with a goal here and there. Yeah, and of course he's got an agenda. Australia. World Cup.
Yeah.
But with that, he's prepared to come to England to get himself in that Australian squad. So
well, that speaks a lot for him straight away, doesn't it? He doesn't want to sit around. He wants to be fit for when Australia go to the World Cup in Russia. So I think it's a win-win all round.
Cass, I want to ask you, since he was last playing the second division, the game's changed totally, and it's much more physical in the Championship these days, much more running to be done. If you look at Lee Gregory's running all the time, closing down, do you think Tim will be able to stand that pressure in the Championship?
Again, going back to being fit, being in incredible condition is going to help him. I think his game was about running and about his ability physically to leap as high as he could, run as hard as he could. I think Tim probably would have lost it a bit, but still enough to get through games. I wouldn't see that as a major issue. This is not a long-term signing. This is just basically a signing to the end of the season, really. I don't think Neil would look beyond that, nor would Tim. So I don't see that as a massive problem. Look, you're right, the game has improved a hell of a lot in the Championship because the Premier League has improved the level of player that's got. It's filtered down towards the Championship, so the Championship's become a better league. It is the third or fourth best supported league in Europe. It's a hell of a level.
But one of the things that we noticed last night against Derby is they packed their defence. Tim Cahill, with his knowledge of the game, will probably be able to get between the centre halves, and he's got a decent heading ability. So I think that's a major plus straight away. Yeah?
Yes, it is. Tim, I've seen so many times get goals where I thought, what a great header. What a great leap. Just got himself in between people. If he does that, 2, 3, 4 times before the end of the season, great. Tim's given a lot to come to Millwall. And that's got to come with a bit of the heart as well, to want to come back and play for the Lions.
Do you think he wanted to come to us particularly rather than he must have had some other offers on the table?
Probably, but places that he might not want to go. But also knowing Neil is a big plus for him because he'll know that Neil will use him in the right way. He'll look at Millwall. And Millwall they've used Gregory and Morrison a lot. And there's times where you could go, do you know what, if we can get a midfielder come number 10, getting into certain areas in the box, crosses will come in. O'Brien will put crosses in. Millwall will deliver. Yeah. So it's not like he's not going to get many opportunities to get on the end of something. He'll do that really well.
Cass, can I ask you about discipline? If Harris and Cahill are mates from the old days, now if Harris ever has a situation where he has to discipline the player, that could be awkward potentially. We were talking off air earlier about David Moyes he dropped Antonio Mikel from West Ham's game last night. Mikel Antonio, I should say. Would that be a problem with discipline because they were mates? Can that work, that relationship?
I think Neil would know exactly the mentality of Tim Cahill, and I don't think that if that would have crossed his mind, Joe, he would have certainly thought long and hard about not taking him. I think what he knows is getting a great... Why is he playing at 38? Because he's a super pro. He's playing to
just
that
like
later
yourself,
age. Well, no, but obviously...
He's going down and signing up later.
Obviously, injuries play a big part on what period of a player's career ends. Because if you had loads of injuries, you can finish at 30, 32, 3, 4. But when you're 38, you've been a great pro. You've given everything to your game to be a pro as long. So I think mentality is already there. The answer is just look at how long this guy's played football for.
And there's a desire, Cass, isn't there? He's got that desire and determination. He wants to be there at the World Cup, to play in his 4th World Cup, as I understand it, So that the guy's there's nothing wrong with the guy's attitude. He's got a desire, determination. He must have looked after himself, like you say, to be at the age of... If we'd looked after ourselves, we'd probably still be broadcasting somewhere else now, wouldn't we?
Well, if you go back to great signings of the past and you think of... I always remember Liverpool signing Gary McAllister. And it was a bit of an eye-opener at the time. He came for a free transfer and I remember thinking, wow, his age, Liverpool Football Club, he was phenomenal for Steven Gerrard, Michael Owen, Robbie Fowler, all these great players. He made a big impact on them. So sometimes you bring to a club, it's not just what they do on the pitch, it's what they bring along. The baggage with them is normally very, very good. And
that comes back to what you said at the start, Cass. It's what he's going to bring to the youngsters. And I think Neil wants him there for the youngsters to look up to him and see how it's done, how to go about things. We know we've got Steve Morrison there and Tony Craig's been around, but Tim's another one, a different maybe type of player. But as you say, 38 years of age, he's looked after himself, he's got a determination, he's got the right attitude. It all fits.
Well, it does, and we don't have to look much further than my old playing mate, Teddy.
Yeah.
Teddy was 42, made his last appearance. He went to 38, I think he went to Portsmouth, somewhere like that. Yeah. Portsmouth, West Ham.
And he was quicker at 42 than he was at
18. He couldn't have been no slower at 18.
I always say Ted lost the yard he never had. But it's a great example. It's people. Likewise with Ted, why he played for so long was he had an amazing attitude to want to play football, be a great pro, be physically in incredible condition. Tim ticks every box that I've just mentioned, and I feel that. You're trying to survive. Look, Neil in some respects is up against these. There's 10, 12 teams that we could all drop, names in with huge budgets, incredible wage bills, And Neil's up against that, so he's looking at every edge to try and keep Millwall in the Championship. And look, going to Leeds and winning that particular game against the Leeds club who's spending $4 million, Neil can't compete with that. He can't compete with wages, so he's having to find ways of winning games.
Let's look at that, because he's now looking at players like the young guy Toffolo at Norwich. Maybe Ben Marshall's coming in. These are guys that are on the fringes of their teams and could do a job if got into a strong squad. Do you think that's the right way to go with a club like Millwall?
I think it's the only way at the moment. We can't go back to the days when I signed for the club because, Reg Burr invested a huge amount of money and we were one of the biggest spenders in the Championship at that time. We're not there. We're at a different place. We are looking for loan deals, looking for bargain buys, looking for people who might want to come and play and need a chance, an opportunity. Might have to bring an experienced guy that's been around the block, like Tim Cahill.
Or Jason Shackell.
We're in a different market.
Yeah.
So I won't say everybody else, but most of the teams in the Championship. So it's a really tricky one to how Neil will manage it. And there'll be hard times along the way, rocky road, because he can't compete. In the same way. The only edge that Neil has, if he organises his team, which he always does really well, he gives us a chance of winning football matches.
I want to ask you about another little thing that is coming up now. This cup replay next week, 400-mile round trip to Rochdale, and then we've got to play Cardiff on the Friday night. Do you think you'll play a younger team there, or do you think you'll stick because we've got Tottenham on the horizon next round? What do you reckon?
Or Newport.
Or Newport,
or Newport.
It's going to be Tottenham, and we know that. So that's not being disrespectful to Newport. It will be Spurs. I think that play your best team because they'll absolutely get the drive of a cup run, and playing Spurs is special at the New Den. It would be a special night. So I think the motivation, the adrenaline of the boys will carry them through a game at Rochdale, and likewise against Cardiff. Yeah, it'd be tough. But I tell you what, that's the character of your team. You want to be playing in games like that. And having, we had a great cup run last year. Beat some good sides, Premier League teams. Leicester's, Bournemouth.
And we want revenge
and,
from Tottenham.
Well, I was going to say, then the heavy defeat at the Lane.
Yeah.
Which was no disgrace.
No.
Yes, it was. 6-0, that's disgraceful.
Joe, you're being, let's put it in perspective. They're a hell of a team, Tottenham, but have them at the New Den, it'd give us something.
Well, they were better last year, I think. I think we've got a better chance, especially at home.
Oh, especially at home, Joe.
Where do you see Neil playing Cahill?
Well, so there might be option of going sometimes maybe playing Lee Gregory or just one, and then you can have Tim just behind the forward. If you're chasing a game, you can always throw on him as like a midfielder come forward, and you still keep with two. So I think it's going to be determined by how you're going in a football match. I don't think he'll look at Tim and go, that's his certain spot. I think what he's doing, he's going to have him and he's going to dip him in and out of the team. And it depends how a match is going of how he uses him.
Cass, thanks so much for joining us, mate. Really appreciate you being the first big guest on this brand new podcast. So thank you, mate.
Yeah, come on, you love.
Down to be a warm sign before the deadline, Cass.
Absolutely. Still plenty to come on the No One Likes Us Talking podcast. Don't you go anywhere.
I'm Jim White. Now, when I'm not revealing all the latest transfers for you, I am listening to the brilliant Millwall podcast, No One Likes Us Talking.
Well, everyone's listening to it, Jim. Of course, it's a sensation, I've been told, even though we've not put one out yet. Welcome back to the No One Likes Us Talking podcast, an alternative look at the football club. And
I've always wanted to be alternative, Joe.
Well, yes,
you finally got there.
You now are alternative, and now we can say whatever we want without being told off by the hierarchy of the club, who we love dearly.
I thought that was me, Joe.
Well, you'll still tell us off because you are a grumpy old man. Our thanks to Tony Cascarino there. Superb to hear from Cass. Always good value. And stay tuned for plenty of great big names coming up in the coming months. Anyway, let's turn our attentions to the transfer window. And in my opinion, a decent one for the club. We've talked at length about Tim Cahill. Let's move on to someone from Wolves. Now, when we're at the time of recording this, Ben Marshall is on his way to the club. Now, there's a big chance that, because anything can happen in football, that maybe if you're listening to this a couple of weeks later, Ben Marshall chose another club. But if he did, skip forward the next 10 minutes. If he did come to Millwall, just ignore everything I just said. So Ben Marshall signed for us, boys. What do we think he will bring? A little bit of a right back and a right winger. He can do a bit versatile.
Well, yeah, interesting. He can do it on both feet, can't he? Because obviously we'd ideally like to see Wallace coming down the right and him back on the left. I think it's a right age signing. Going to be energetic, going to want to impress because of his experience at Wolves where he's being left out. And let's hope it's with a view to a permanent signing.
I think the recruitment that we've had, obviously through the summer, was fantastic, and it seems like the selection of people that we've gone through in this January transfer window is equally as good in my eyes. I mean, Ben Marshall is the right type of player that we need. We need somebody that can cover, for one thing, Jed Wallace, because Fred nowadays, I think, is probably better off going down the middle. But Ben Marshall, a bit more experienced, but he can play on the right. He can also play on the left. So you've got to cover for Aidan O'Brien ways out, and he'll push Shane Ferguson for a spot. So I think Ben Marshall will be good business.
Yeah. Well, I was sitting there last night, and the one thing I said to Dave next to me is if we had a left winger that could match Wallace, we would be a really potent attacking midfield, I think, And if this boy can bring it to us, then I think, we're halfway there to being a threat to just about every team in the league.
They've also brought in a young lad, Toffolo, who's a left-sided player who can play left-back or left side of midfield and that, who's, I think, one for the future. I think they're looking maybe more for him for next season, if I can put it that way. But I won't be at all surprised if he gets involved as it comes along. But it puts James Meredith, puts him under a little bit more pressure as well.
We might think that Tony Craig might be going, mightn't we? I think that's the rumour.
There's some rumours about that.
There's some rumours about that.
Just on Craig, I must admit, I don't think he should be in the team. But what an example of a captain! You don't hear anything bad from Tony Craig, do you? He is such a professional guy, and a legend. And I think people hold him in high regard. But some people, when they're not getting in the team, can be quite vocal. I mean, I just think he deserves a bit of credit for just sticking with it.
Well, I think
how hard must it be as a club captain to not be getting in that team? That's a tough thing.
It's credit to him that every time Neil Harris mentions anything about the team and that, Tony Craig's name comes up as an important member of the squad, as a leader, as someone that they all look up to. They've signed Jason Shackell. Raquel.
But we'll call him Raquel. I think.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Millwall fans might call him Raquel.
He looks like a leader to me, Joe, as well. He was ordering people around on Saturday in the Rochdale game, and he looks like a born leader.
Let's look at the Shackell signing, because it looked like the start of the window we're talking about Tommy Elphick, didn't they? He was a younger player. Do you think, again, with the way Millwall go, do you think he's got it in him for another year or so in the Championship after this?
I think so, Graeme. I think he's been a quality player. Tommy Elphick, I think possibly the money might have done us a little bit there, because he had a big money move to Villa from Bournemouth. But listen, I'm more than happy with Shackell. He's been a good player. He is a good player. But he's got two players in front of him that are playing out their skin, in Sean Hutchinson and Jake Cooper at the moment. So he's got a battle to get himself into the team. But what I'm trying to get at is he may well be a replacement for Tony Craig. We don't know. But, I mean, I for one, would be more than happy if Tony Craig stays.
And I'd just like to put my little bit in for Tony Craig. I've dealt with him over the years, and I found him to be just about the nicest guy possible. And
we spoke to him on the old show, didn't we?
Yeah, all the time. And he's a real top man. And I think,
and a Millwall boy.
And I hear it lots and lots of times, and it ain't one that I particularly like. But I think when it comes to Tony Craig, he is really a Millwall boy through and through.
Well, as a player, you get 110% from Tony Craig every game that he plays. And as a Millwall fan, I will always applaud that. You want to see 110% effort, even if the game's not going your way or you're not playing particularly well. As long as you're putting the effort in, the attitude's right, and Tony Craig's that through and through.
Tony Craig. Boys, I want to, if you don't mind, I want to bring in a new feature to this programme, if that's all right.
Oh, no. I told him not to do any of this.
The feature is called Let's all have a go at George.
Yes, we like that.
Now, Ted, you start. You've got 30 seconds to tell George, say something horrible about George. No, I'm only joking.
I've dressed up today for this, haven't I?
Yes, mate, you have. Yeah, you look
He's
good.
already written a few things down.
I was
Didn't
really,
Ted I was joking, don't I?
I was nearly in full swing there, Joe. I was off.
Good job you stopped him, Joe.
No, boys, listen, still to come, I want to talk about the FA Cup run and the possible Spurs fixture. But before we do that, this is an opportunity, and George, you can give out the email for this, because if anyone ever wants to get in touch with us and if they've got a grievance with the club or they want to have something addressed, then we'll discuss it on this show. I want to bring in a little feature called Grumpy Old Men, where because you three are grumpy old men. So it's an apt title.
You thought long and hard about that one, Joe.
I did tell. I just made it up on the spot. But I want you all to tell me, from the last time you went down the den, something that maybe upset you. A fellow fan said something, or the service wasn't good, or you didn't like the front of the programme, or the scarf had run out in the shop. I don't know, whatever it could have been. But this is a little opportunity for you. If you've got no grievances, then we'll move on and we'll talk about the FA Cup. But George, you're the grumpiest of old men, so why don't you start? Well, actually, George, you always leave on the 80th minute, don't you? So
Not anymore. No, I don't.
Oh, you've
now.
changed your policy?
Yes, I have changed my policy, and that's why there are no late goals anymore.
Right.
When I used to
Can
leave,
you start going again then?
when I used to leave early, there was always goals at the very end of the game.
Yeah.
As soon as I stopped doing that,
My father-in-law always misses the goals when he has a wee. He drinks too many pints before the game, and honestly, he's always late up for the kickoff. He's always late for the second half because he's gone down. He goes down about 38 minutes to get in the queue for his pint. He's 5 minutes up late after that.
I expect next time him go to the toilet when we're playing next time, Joe, to shout out, "Hold on there a minute, just walk away."
right?
No, because we always score when he's away.
I got one, Joe.
Go on,
you
George.
want to know?
Grumpy old man,
And
George,
it
go
just
for it.
comes with your uncle there, right? You go down to the
father-in-law,
concourse.
yeah.
Father-in-law, yeah, right. Cool, I pity him, blimey. You go down to the concourse to get served at the counters.
Yep.
And you're queuing there, 30 back, and you get your stuff eventually, come out, and the game's been on for about 10 minutes.
So you're saying, George, that we need an hour for half-time?
No, I'm saying that they should be telling us that the game is about to start.
All right.
Like you do in the theatre, Joe. You know when...
So what George
Please
wants,
take your seats.
what
Yeah.
George wants, Joe, instead of the referee blowing a whistle, he's going to shout out, "George, we're just kicking off."
No,
George,
I
or I think the solution to that could be either bring your packed lunch, or or don't go and get anything at half time. Just wait in your seat. I don't need anything at half time. I can wait another 45 minutes. I'll be fine.
Yeah, but your father-in-law's looking at having a drink.
He's an
isn't he?
alcoholic, George.
Oh, bless,
He's an alcoholic.
bless
He
his
needs to-
heart, isn't he?
Poor old Graeme, when he's munched his way through his fifth pie, he comes up half times there.
I just want to
Missed the whole
say
of the
that
first half.
it is quite likely that he will listen to this podcast and his family members. So he's not actually an alcoholic. It was a joke. Okay.
What a little snidey
No,
person
it was
you
a-
are.
well,
All I can say, Joe, you must have two father-in-laws then, because the one I know,
Oh,
I've
no,
seen him in Harry's bar.
He's a big pisshead, that's for sure. Graham, now you've always
Yeah,
got
I've
something to
got
moan
a
about.
lovely one. I've got a lovely
Go
one.
on, go on.
Why is it I go down to watch a game of football and the referee and the assistant referee
Oh, God.
cannot see fouls right in front of them? I don't understand it. I mean, we had the recent game against Derby, as we're talking about. Poor old Lee Gregory's got 6 stitches in his head. The guy's kicked him in his head. The referee just plays on, and I can't see anything.
I'll tell you why.
But when just let me finish. When a little Derby man's
off.
doing,
He's off.
when a Derby man's doing a little pirouette, and he can't, and he gets touched. Oh, suddenly the game stopped.
yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Well-
I am getting fed up with useless referees.
Well, Graham,
think we all are.
it was quite obvious that Lee Gregory headed his boot. You could see that a mile
Yeah,
off.
that's what it must
Instead
seem.
of going for the ball, he thought, "I'll head the boot of that Derby player." I mean, it was quite obvious.
Well, Steve Kavanagh went to the FA and launched his campaign about referees and us not getting not getting treated fairly. I
so
think.
it's Steve Kavanagh's fault.
No, I think
It's got even worse since he did that.
Well, you say that.
You should have kept quiet, Steve.
I remember when Kenny Jackett was here, he sort of was astounded at all the decisions going against us, and he sort of went to the top refs and said, look, can you look at some of our stuff? And he showed them videos, and they all agreed. They said, blimey, it looks like you are actually getting a bit of a rough end of the deal.
I do think, I really honestly believe it, I think the reputation that the club has got down the years, and I think that the club have worked very hard over the last 10, 20 years to improve the reputation of the club, and I think we're a good family club. But I do think that there is a reputation that comes with this club, and that people have a grudge against us, and we're not very well liked. No one likes us.
No one likes us, Joe. Yeah,
and that is true, and I do think it affects referees' decisions. I do believe that.
And it's all Graham's fault.
No, it's just raising my blood pressure. I go to the relax to watch the game.
No, it's Steve
enjoy.
Cavanagh's fault. It was Steve Kavanagh.
Don't talk to me about that, mate.
Ted, you're the least of the grumpy old men.
Oh, I have me moments, Joe.
Who's the oldest of you three, by the way?
Oh, can't you tell by look at Christ Almighty?
You look the youngest, Ted.
Thank
but,
you.
You know, but I know Graham could be in his 30s for all I know.
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe the amount of plastic surgery on Graham's face, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
It all starts to melt after a while.
Well, we'll put the aircon on. Ted, have you got anything to moan about?
Only the prices of the beer in Narry's bar, but then that's what everybody moans about, I think.
They are expensive.
Well, you know, but you accept it, don't you? Perhaps it's...
Well, because you're an alcoholic, yeah.
Well, I can't get your father-in-law out of the way of the bar. That's my moan.
How much is a pint of beer in Harry's bar?
Oh, I don't know. I don't even pay much attention to beer. I hand over 20 quid and get nothing back. But
He gets everybody else to buy him one,
perhaps
that's
they
why.
should get people behind the counter to be out the counter.
If you would like to join this argument, NOLU talking at gmail.com. You can send your emails in and we'll read them out another day, guys.
That would be beautiful. Anyway, we're going to speak next, boys and girls, ladies and gents, about the FA Cup run and a possible meeting with Spurs. Could be a bit of a moneymaker, but is a cup run a pain in the bum? We'll talk about that next. Welcome to the No One Likes Us Talking podcast question number 1, sponsored by WePrintAnyGift.com. To be in with a chance of winning a brilliant prize from our sponsor's gift range, listen up. It could be something to exhibit in your glass display cabinet. It could be a Millwall pen in a presentation box, or maybe a classic collector's retro Lions Live keyring, because George has got to get rid of them all. And that could complement your front door and car keys. Just listen to the following question and see if you can get it right. The last time we played Reading at the Majewski Stadium and came away with something, who scored the 90th minute equaliser in a game that also saw Jimmy Abdu dismissed only 1 minute beforehand? Please send your answer to nolutalkin at gmail.com. I'll spell it for you, and it's in all lowercase. NOLUTALKIN at gmail.com. That's NOLUTALKIN at gmail.com. Also put NOLU podcast question in the subject of your email. The competition will close at 23:59 hours next Monday. The winner will be announced on our social media links at Facebook, Twitter and Tumblr on next Thursday. On Thursday next. We will also give the winner a shout out on the forthcoming No One Likes Us Talking show. Once again, thanks to our sponsor WePrintAnyGift.com. Check them out, www.WePrintAnyGift.com. God bless you and good luck.
No one likes us. No one likes us. No one likes us. We don't care. We are Millwall. Super Millwall. We are Millwall from the day.
Welcome back to the No One Likes Us Talking podcast. I'm Marba. I could re-record that, couldn't I? Because we're not live.
That sounds fine.
Leave
I'll
that one in, Joe.
It's me, Joe Amphlett, with the boys. You're not in the MSC anymore.
I thought that was some foreign. Foreign player we just signed. You was talking.
We've been exiled, mate. We've been exiled from the
So you all quit the Millwall Supporters Club.
Yes.
But you're still officially part of it because you're season ticket holders, right?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But you don't get involved in the meetings anymore.
Oh, no. We've been
exiled.
Ted's been very, very.
No. We've been ejected.
There was a bloody coup.
We've been asked to leave the building, Joe.
Do you think
We've missed the den for the day. He's just left the building.
The club, I'm sure the club will listen to this. Or I'm sure someone will have a listen to it.
I'm not so sure at the moment.
But do you think one day that you and Steve Kavanagh or whoever it was that exiled you will come to a place where you can both get on again? And do you reckon we could get Steve on the show at one point?
I'm sure we will.
Look, we left under our own steam, Joe, at the end of the day. Nobody forced us out in that sense. We could have stayed there and battled on, but there were certain things that was happening and going on that led us to leave. Let's put it that way. And we wish them all the best, the ones that are in there and doing it now. But
the main thing is, we all want the same thing. We want this club to be successful, and fans have different views and stuff, and we wish them well with theirs, as I'm sure they will with ours. Let's move on to the FA Cup and a possible meeting with Spurs. As George mentioned earlier, it was no disgrace. I don't know, when you get beat 6-0 by anyone, it's a little bit embarrassing, but this is a different time. If we do get Spurs and we get past Rochdale, and again, I'm making it, you might be listening to this 15 years later, whatever, and Rochdale beat us. Whatever, I don't know. But let's just pretend in a world where we've got through and we're facing Spurs. I think it's a better time to play them this year than last. I think they're not as free-flowing as they were last year. They're just not quite the team they were last year.
Well, they struggled a lot, actually, at Newport in the thing. We know that they will.
Vertonghen is the worst I've ever seen him play.
Yeah, but they will beat Newport, and then it's up to us, Joe. But I think you're right. I think there's a lot of difference between if we get to play them this year and the game that we played last year. Obviously, the obvious one is we're at home, and we tend to frighten a few Premier League sides when we're at home. You're right. I'm not sure that they're playing as well as they did last year, and I think we're a different side this year. I think I think our level has come up no end from what the side was that went and played at Spurs last year.
Right. The away form, as we all know, apart from the Leeds win, which is fantastic, has not been great, and so you look at our home form and you look at our points and you think, well, the home form has been sensational. Really, no one has come and really given us a spanking. We've matched pretty much every team, and it's a hard place for people to come and play, and that's what we want to say about Millwall at home. We can say that this year. Harris has got us very, very hard to beat at home.
Yeah, he's changed that, hasn't he? I mean, we suffered under Holloway and we suffered under Jacket, hardly ever winning at home, and it was like something I'd never known because I'd grown
towards
up.
the end of Jacket's reign,
towards
season,
the end. I've been a bit hard on him there, but there you go. But under Neil, he's really restored that, and for me, that's one of the main.
Let's concentrate on what you've asked us. I think that the club are very mixed up about the FA Cup. On the one hand, we say we haven't got any money, and then we want to concentrate on the league. But a club like ours now, we're punting into the sort of championship. We should be looking at cup runs. I think we kind of don't know what team sometimes to play against these early rounds in the cup. I mean, I think we're giving ourselves a lot of problems when we go out to Rochdale. We're going to play on an awful pitch. I think we should have managed this round a little bit better.
Well, part of the problem for us, Graham, we've got a small squad, and we can't. We did make changes. I know you said 9 changes, but we've got a small squad, and we've not. I mean, the people coming in on the transfer deadline day will help us no end if we do go on a month, because it's the number of games. Look at we got Reading Saturday, then we got the Rochdale game, and then we got Cardiff on the Friday night. 3 very quick games, But listen, who in their right mind does not want to play Tottenham in the next round of the Cup?
Well, let's take that on board.
The club's got to want it.
Yeah,
Graham,
let's take that on board. Now, I'm Neil, and I love Neil. I think he's a great manager. But why is he making substitutions when you can see the game slipping away from us 6 minutes from the end? Why wasn't Lee Gregory and the midfield player whose name I just forgotten. Why on Sean Williams? Why on earth weren't they put on earlier? I don't know. 20 minutes from the end to get that game out of the way, because you don't want to go out to Rochdale, a 400-mile round trip. And I think we had enough. And when we actually had the attackers on the field, we were causing untold amount of grief right at the end.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one though, Graeme, because the bread and butter. It's a cliche. Is the league, and Neil wanted to rest a few players, and I think probably thought the players he put out were good enough to beat Rochdale. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It didn't work on that occasion, so I don't think we can be too harsh on Neil on that one. I think the team he put out should have been capable of beating Rochdale.
I think on the night,
Neil didn't want that replay. No one wanted the replay. The players don't want it.
No,
but football's not that black and white, is it?
No, but sorry, George. What they do want is that round against Tottenham at home. We all know what that will
absolutely
bring. And listen, I've never been about that sort of the cup. And let's get someone like Tottenham. When that's there, you've got to go out and put the best side you can possibly do. Obviously, injuries being allowed it, but you've got to.
Do you think he will play the best side?
I think so.
Do you think he'll go back?
I think he will now.
I think he will.
Now with the draws come out and it's Spurs, I think that's a game that we want. One for money, and it will be a packed den, and it will be a great atmosphere.
Two for revenge.
And I think
they can put the ticket prices up. They'll be more expensive than the Rochdale ones.
and the Rochdale manager did say afterwards that was the best they've played all season. So
because they're playing on a better pitch, aren't they, George?
Yeah, that's exactly right. He said we haven't, on his
Yeah.
pitch. He said it was a delight to play at the Den with it.
See, my fear is we go out and we do put a big team out of Rochdale, and then we want to give Neil Warnock a good kicking, don't we? Because his side always gives everybody else a kicking. Like Manchester
certainly
City,
gave Sane a good kicking.
Yeah, certainly did. So we want to give him a good kicking. So I hope that doesn't reflect on what's going to happen in the future as regards the Cardiff game.
So I wonder whether he will actually put out his very best team against Rochdale.
There you go.
So, Graeme, are you saying that you're not? Would you be bothered about going out to Rochdale?
Yeah, I would be bothered. I would be bothered.
What
I
if
would
we
be
beat
bothered.
Cardiff the next game?
I want it all, don't I? That's what I want.
But I
That's
think
a very difficult
I
question.
think the point you're making, Graeme, is that you think he made the mistake in the first game.
Yeah, I think he did.
Yeah.
I think he should have. Well, when he saw it going wrong, I think he should have been quicker with his substitutions for that cup game.
I mean, look at Morrison, he made all the difference.
Yeah,
once he
did.
on.
But the only thing I'd say, I think the players made the mistake. They was a good enough side to have beaten Rochdale, and for some reason they didn't play. There was a lot of players out there that were playing for positions in the team, and they should have played better than they did. And he shouldn't have had to rely on Steve Morrison. But you're right, I do take the point that I think I was calling for it, that they should have come on a little bit earlier than they did, because it did seem to be a little bit last minute. But I suppose in Neil's mind, he's thinking, I need these players for the derby game.
I think the priority for Neil is the championship.
Oh, of course, without a doubt.
No.
But as I say, with an attractive tie like Tottenham staring you in the face, George, you've got to go with what you can. There cannot be anybody out there that doesn't want us to get Tottenham to the Tottenham game, if you know what I mean.
George, if I said to you right now, Millwall will win the FA Cup this year, but they'll get relegated, would you take that?
Oh, blimey, no.
You'd rather stay in the Championship than win the FA Cup.
That's what Wigan did, didn't it?
I mean, you've got to stay in the Championship, and look at the seasons, and I asked everybody.
But in the short term, because you know what we're like, we're a yo-yo club. In a couple of years' time, maybe even next year, we possibly could go down. FA Cup win, George, that lasts forever. We've never won it.
I'll be controversial, Joe. I'd have a FA Cup win all day long.
I think I would.
I would. It's about winning things, and if you win something like the FA Cup, was it Wigan who beat Man City that year and they went down?
Wigan.
And you ask a Wigan fan, they wouldn't want to miss, have that day taken away from them whatsoever.
Okay,
well,
Joe, I'll change my mind. I'll go for the FA Cup.
George, you stick with the original.
This is all hypothetical because it'd be Rochdale Newport next
Wigan have
round.
had a few torrid years.
Yeah, that's the point, isn't it? I think you've got to progress yourself up the leagues. I think you get a better class of player in. If you go down, then you start reducing on your player staff ability, reducing on numbers. So I'd always take, and I understand I'm arguing against myself in some respects here, but I'd always take maintaining in the Championship. I think we're going to get enough this season for that. What I'm worried about is we put a decent side out against Rochdale. We know it's a poor pitch. One of their games just been called off just recently because it's been waterlogging. are we going to pick up injuries? That's what my fear is. You know, that's
you
what
worry
we're given.
too much, Graham.
I do. I
You're
know
a
I
warrior.
do.
You've got to chill out.
That's why I've got no hair, but I don't care.
Graham, you could get injuries in training like Ferguson did, so I'm not worried about it. The bottom line is we all want everything. We want to win the FA Cup. We want to stay in. That's what football's about.
Well,
it's
that
about
could
winning.
happen, Ted. That could happen this year.
Well, we might even sign Timmy Cahill again. You never know, Joe. Something might happen like that.
Absolutely. Never stop dreaming and never stop believing. That's
See,
my motto.
I think the point Graham makes there is that if we go back to the summer, look at the quality of the players we got in this transfer window. We've got quality players again. I think the club is moving up.
Yeah.
Should we? I know it's hypothetical, but should we go down? You won't get that intake of quality again.
Let's look at it, George. If you're talking about that, we're 9 points clear of relegation at this moment in time. And there is definitely 3 teams worse than us in there. I'm not so worried about. We can maintain.
I've
what
heard
we're
that
in.
a million times.
No,
there are worse teams than us.
But I'm talking about what I've seen this season. You know, and there's some sides struggling, and we're still 9 points clear. And our home form so far this year has been outstanding. And I believe, we've been to Leeds, a confidence booster. It's a bit like we were talking about if we do get to Tottenham. Please God, it's not Rochdale and Newport in the next round. But if we do get Tottenham at home, we've got a belief about beating Premier sides down at our ground.
Absolutely.
Because we've done it 3 times last year. We welcome a Premier League side down there, more so than a Rochdale, because we believe that we can actually beat them. So I can't think of any better scenario than us getting Tottenham down there and actually beating them 6-0.
Let's hope by the next time we do this podcast, because it's going to be once a month. Because we don't want to bore you, we don't want to do it every week. I've got other things to do, Let's hope by that time we've played and beaten Spurs. I'm sure we'll talk about that on the next episode. But boys, it's time to go down the pub. Should we have a little drink now?
Oh, yeah.
Why not?
We can do what we want, can't we?
We can do what we want. Have you not got to get back to work?
None of that George telling us we can't move or do anything like that. No.
Yeah.
Bugger, let's go and have a
George
pint.
ain't in charge anymore.
I've been doing what I want, and there's a little puddle on the chair.
Graham, I'm responsible for that. I'll go clean that up. Listen, thank you so much for downloading and listening to this brand new podcast. Please help us support it. Share it around. Tell your mates about it. No One Likes Us Talking podcast for Millwall fans everywhere. We want to get you on about it. And George, give them the email address one last time so they can get involved, and the Twitter and the Facebook and all that jazz.
nolutalkin @gmail.com.
That's the email. How about the Twitter?
The Twitter is @NOLU Talking, all in capitals, by the way. And that's our Twitter account. Please, foreigners, follow us.
Foreigners?
No,
we don't want any foreigners.
I think he's been racist then.
No, that is a bit racist. We'll edit that out. That will be edited out.
No, leave it in, Joe.
I can't leave that in, George.
Please, foreigners, follow us.
Do you know what? At this moment, we would have foreigners follow us. We don't mind. There's nothing wrong with foreigners. Listen, thank you. My name's Joe Amphlett. I've been with Ted, Graeme and George, my old muckers. We'll be back next month for a second episode of No One Likes Us Talking, and there's plenty more exciting things to come in the meantime. But thank you so much for listening.
Well done, Joe.
Thank you, Graeme, and we'll see you very soon. Thank you.
Cheers, Joe.
Bye.
Welcome to the No One Likes Us Talking podcast question number 1, sponsored by WePrintAnyGift.com. To be in with a chance of winning a brilliant prize from our sponsor's gift range, listen up. It could be something to exhibit in your glass display cabinet. It could be a Millwall pen in a presentation box, or maybe a classic collector's retro Lions Live keyring, because George has got to get rid of them all. And that could complement your front door and car keys. Just listen to the following question and see if you can get it right. The last time we played Reading at the Majeski Stadium and came away with something, who scored the 90th minute equaliser in a game that also saw Jimmy Abdu dismissed only 1 minute beforehand? Please send your answer to nolutalking@gmail.com. I'll spell it for you, and it's in all lowercase. NOLUTALKIN@gmail.com. That's NOLUTALKIN@gmail.com. Also put NOLU podcast question in the subject of your email. The competition will close at 23:59 hours next Monday. The winner will be announced on our social media links at Facebook, Twitter and Tumblr on next Thursday.
on Thursday next. We will also give the winner a shout out on the forthcoming No One Likes Us Talking show. Once again, thanks to our sponsor WePrintAnyGift.com. Check them out, www.WePrintAnyGift.com. God bless you and good luck.